Alrighty folks, here's some problems from section 4.1 on the review that you might see something fairly similar to it on the test. So starting off towards the top, we're not going to go through every problem, but there's a lot of repeats, so if you need some extra problems that you can check out that are similar to these, feel free to use those. But the first couple of problems are like 27 and the ones after that are about coterminal angles. For the first one on 27, coterminal of pi over 6. In general, coterminal angles, we're going to add and subtract 2 pi. So I'm going to start by adding 2 pi. So if we have pi over 6 plus 2 pi, well, I'm going to convert the 2 pi to 12 pi over 6. That way we can add them together and we get 13 pi over 6. The other option to find another coterminal, so like on a test, maybe hypothetically you'd be asked to find a positive and a negative version of an angle, or of a coterminal angle. Maybe you can do pi over 6 minus 2 pi, which would be pi over 6 minus 12 pi over 6, which would give us negative 11 pi over 6. You can check out the next one as well, 5 pi over 6. If we add 2 pi, similarly, we'd end up with 17 pi over 6. And if we were to subtract 2 pi, we'd end up with negative 7 pi over 6. So coterminal angles, adding and subtracting 2 pi to our radian measures. Now, similarly, for coterminal angles for degrees, we're just going to add and subtract 360. So I'm going to add 360. So 45 plus 360 degrees gives us 405 degrees. And if I do 45 minus 360, that would give us negative 315 degrees. Now, say you're asked, hypothetically, of course, they're asked to find positive and negative. Make sure if you need to add 360 again or subtract 360 again, you do that. So like say, for example, let me just do a side example randomly. If you were to have 390 degrees and you were to add 360 and you're at 750 degrees. But if you do 390 minus 360, you're only at 30 degrees. But to find another coterminal angle that you just subtract 360 again. So make sure you add and subtract 360 multiple times if needed. So this one would be negative 330. So if you need to add and subtract multiple times, please do so that. So for negative 36, I'm going to add 360, and we end up with positive 324 degrees. And if I subtract 360 from negative 36 degrees, oh, no, sorry, not negative 360 degrees. I did it again. From negative 36 degrees, there we go, we get negative 396. So coterminal angles, make sure you're adding and subtracting 360 multiple times if needed. For 59 and problems around that area, it talks about converting it to radians. So we're given a degree measure, we're going to ask to convert it to radians. In general, to convert to radians, we're going to multiply by pi over 180. Now, if it helps, you can just put it as one big old fraction. So we have negative 20, and in fact, let me just rewrite this. Negative 20 pi over 180. It really doesn't make a difference to me when you start canceling things out, but make sure you do cancel things out. The 20 and the 180, you can both reduce. To divide both those by 20, we end up with 1 up top and 9 down below. So this one, we end up with negative pi over 9 in radians. Now for negative 60, we'll do the same thing. We'll multiply by pi over 180. This one I'm just going to reduce this way. We got negative 60 and the 180 you can reduce to 1 and 3. So we end up with negative pi, putting it over 1, over 3 as our radian measure. Going the opposite direction on 63, 5 pi over 4. If we're converting that to degrees, we're going to multiply by 180 over pi. The nice thing about this is the pi's are going to cancel out, so they can get slashed. You can just multiply straight up and then divide, but I'm just going to reduce right off the bat. 4 and 180, we can divide both of those by 4. 180 divided by 4, sorry I'm doing this off the top of my head in case you couldn't tell, is 45. So we end up with 5 times 45, which is 215 degrees. So 5 pi over 4 is 215 degrees. Negative 7 pi over 3, similarly, we're going to multiply by 180 over pi, 180 degrees. The pi's cancel out. The 3 and the 180 we can reduce to 1 and 60. So we effectively end up with negative 7 times 60, which is negative 420 degrees. On a problem like 99, you're given an arc length, and this one has a picture on it. Well, the picture I can draw it approximately. Oops, that's not a circle. So if you have a circle, we're told that the radius is 7, and we have an arc length of 28. To figure out the angle measure theta, and this might not be to scale, I'm actually not even looking at the original problem. The angle measure theta is the arc length divided by your radius. So in our case, it's just 28 divided by 7. Well, that's simply 4. So make sure you remember this formula, theta equals S over R.